Good evening and welcome to the Capital Talk. A war that many feared, few expected this soon, and nobody is fully prepared for. Tonight, confirmed facts, verified numbers, and real consequences for the real world. This is your complete, sourced breakdown of the 2026 Iran war. Let's begin. Let's start with what is confirmed and on the record. On February 20th, 2026, President Trump issued a 10-day ultimatum to Iran reach a nuclear deal or face military consequences. This was not a bluff. The United States had been building up military assets in the region for weeks. A third round of indirect nuclear talks took place in Geneva on February 26th. Reports indicated the two sides remained far from agreement. And so, on February 28th, following unsatisfactory results from that final round of negotiations, the strikes began. The operation was codenamed Operation Epic Fury. On February 28th, 2026, U.S. and Israeli forces launched nearly 900 strikes in just 12 hours, targeting Iranian missiles, air defenses, military infrastructure, and leadership. The stated objectives, according to U.S. Ambassador to the UN Mike Waltz, were to dismantle Iran's missile capabilities, degrade its naval assets, disrupt its proxy militia networks, and ensure Iran can never threaten the world with a nuclear weapon. The mission was not a warning shot. It was a decapitation strike, targeting the very top of the Iranian state. The opening salvo took out the heart of the Iranian regime. Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei was killed, along with dozens of other officials. By confirmed reports, 40 Iranian officials were killed in the strikes. Those confirmed dead include Salah Asadi, head of intelligence for Iran's emergency command, Mohammad Shirazi, head of the military office of Khamenei, Hossein Jabal Amelian, head of the Organization of Defensive Innovation and Research, and former SPND head Reza Mozaffari Nia. Iran's chief of staff Abdurrahim Mousavi was also confirmed killed. Iran's response was immediate. On the very first day, February 28th, an explosion in Tel Aviv killed a civilian woman and injured 22 others. Iran fired 90 missiles at Israel on day one alone. But the strikes also caused civilian tragedy. A missile struck a girls' school adjacent to a naval base in Minab, near Bandar Abbas, killing more than 160 people. Israeli officials denied involvement. The IDF spokesperson said at the time, "I am not aware of any Israeli or American strike on that location." The U.S. military said it was looking into the reports. CNN was unable to independently verify the reports at the time. This moment, a girls' school, children killed in a war zone, became one of the defining images of this conflict's human cost. Let us go through the confirmed numbers. As of March 10, 2026, an 8th U.S. soldier has been confirmed killed in the Gulf region. His name was Benjamin N. Pennington, 26 years old, from Kentucky. He died from wounds suffered on March 1, 2026. He was somebody's son, somebody's brother. He was 26 years old. Iranian missiles have targeted the headquarters of the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet in Bahrain's Jaffa area multiple times. In Bahrain, 32 people were wounded in an Iranian drone attack, including children requiring surgery. U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, confirmed that U.S. forces have struck more than 3,000 targets inside Iran since the war began on February 28th. Iran has fired over 500 ballistic and naval missiles and nearly 2,000 drones since February 28th. Approximately 40% of those were aimed at Israel. Around 60% were directed at U.S. targets across the region. Iran's total death toll has crossed 1,255, including at least 1,245 civilians. Thousands more are wounded. Tens of thousands have been displaced from their homes. Jordan alone reported being targeted by 119 Iranian missiles and drones, injuring 14 people on its soil. These are not abstractions. These are families, hospitals, schools, communities. Now, the moment that stopped the world. On February 28th, Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei was assassinated. His daughter, son-in-law, grandchild, and daughter-in-law were also killed in the same strikes. Iran declared 40 days of mourning. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian called the killing of Khamenei a declaration of open war on Muslims, especially Shiites, in all corners of the world. He declared revenge Iran's legitimate right and duty. And then a new supreme leader was named. Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of the slain supreme leader, was elevated to the position. The IRGC and senior Iranian leadership endorsed him. The message from Tehran: we are still standing. Trump's response? He called Mojtaba a lightweight and said Iran's new leader would not last without American approval. When Israel's foreign minister was asked if Mojtaba was now a target, his answer was chilling. You will have to wait and see. The killing of a sitting supreme leader. The installation of his own son as replacement. This is history being made in real time. Before geopolitics, let us pause for humanity. In Tehran, in the early hours of the war, residents rushed to supermarkets, emptying shelves of bread, eggs, bottled water, and milk. Long queues formed at gas stations across the city. These are ordinary people, not soldiers, not politicians, just families trying to survive. Interestingly, when news broke of Khamenei's death, cheers and celebrations were heard in parts of Iran. Pro-regime crowds gathered in Tehran to mourn. The country was split, a divided nation, living through a war it did not start. Dubai's international airport, the world's busiest airport for international travel, was shut down indefinitely. Hundreds of thousands of travelers were stranded across the region. In Karachi, Pakistan, at least 9 protesters were killed after demonstrators stormed the heavily fortified U.S. consulate to protest American military action. Pakistani emergency services confirmed the toll. This war is not contained to the battlefield. It is in the streets of Karachi, in the airports of Dubai, in the supermarkets of Tehran, in the homes of Kentucky. This is the part that matters for every viewer, wherever you are watching from. The Strait of Hormuz, through which 1/5 of the world's oil and LNG supplies pass, became a flashpoint. The IRGC began blocking the transit of commercial ships. China's foreign ministry directly raised alarms about the impact on its energy security. Nearly all of Iran's crude exports go to China, accounting for roughly 13% of China's total seaborne crude intake, according to data analytics firm Clear. That supply is now severely disrupted. Bloomberg News reported that China has asked its largest oil refiner to stop exporting diesel and gasoline, a sign Beijing is preparing for prolonged energy disruption. Airlines began canceling flights across the region. Dubai's airport, the world's busiest international hub, was halted indefinitely, stranding hundreds of thousands of passengers. The 2026 U.S.-Israel attacks on Iran are widely considered illegal under international law, as they violate the UN Charter's prohibition on the use of force, do not meet the criteria for self-defense, and lack UN Security Council authorization. Russia requested an emergency UN Security Council session. The U.S. and Iranian representatives exchanged direct warnings in what observers called a rare and colorful exchange at the emergency session. In Europe, Spain denied the use of its military bases for U.S. flights connected to the offensive against Iran. President Trump threatened Spain with economic retaliation in response. Now China. And here we are working directly from China's official foreign ministry transcripts. China's foreign ministry spokesperson stated clearly, the U.S.-Israeli strikes have no UN Security Council authorization and violate international law. China firmly opposes the use of force in international relations or infringement on other countries' sovereignty and security. Foreign Minister Wang Yi contacted his counterparts from Russia, Iran, Oman, France, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. He called for an immediate stop to military operations and a return to dialogue and negotiation. At China's National People's Congress on March 8th, Wang Yi declared, this was a war that should never have happened, and a war that benefited no one. He touted China as the world's most important force of peace, stability, and justice. But here is the harder truth. What China says and what China does are different things. Analysts note that Beijing has done very little beyond words. The reason? Xi Jinping is preparing to host Trump in Beijing later this month for a crucial summit. Iran ultimately ranks below China's trade relationship with the United States. China is also using this moment strategically to present itself to the global South as a champion of non-interference, while Washington is seen as a hegemonic power. Beijing has also barred the export of rare earth elements for military use, crucial for missiles and fighter jets, which could make it harder for the U.S. to replenish its weapons supplies. China is reportedly in talks with Iran to allow crude oil and Qatari LNG vessels safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz, protecting its own energy supply while maintaining diplomatic distance from the conflict. China is playing chess, not checkers. Every move is calculated. And now, the country watching all of this most carefully. On March 1st, North Korea's foreign ministry issued an official spokesperson's press statement, one level higher in authority than their typical response, condemning the strikes. The statement called the U.S.-Israeli strikes an illegal act of aggression and the most despicable form of violation of sovereignty. It described American behavior as a result of U.S. hegemonic and rogue nature and condemned what it called the shameless rogue act of the U.S. North Korea took more than 24 hours before issuing the statement, indicating the Kim regime carefully assessed the situation first, querying Iranian diplomats in Pyongyang and observing what Beijing and Moscow were saying before responding. Now, what does this mean for the world? Analysts at 38 North, the leading North Korea research institute, concluded the unfolding situation in Iran will almost certainly reinforce North Korea's mistrust of the United States. And crucially, it will make restarting any U.S.-North Korea negotiations more challenging going forward. Think about what that means. Iran did not have nuclear weapons. North Korea does. Kim Jong-un is watching the United States overthrow a government that was close to nuclear capability, and his lesson is clear. The nuclear weapon is the only thing keeping me safe. Why would he ever give it up now? Washington Post reported on March 9th that North Korea, South Korea, Japan, and China are all watching warily as war spreads, each preparing for the economic and long-term security consequences. More than a week into the war, Trump stated there would be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender, without elaborating on specific terms. Three possible paths forward, based on what experts and officials have actually said. Iran's new leadership, under sustained military pressure, agrees to dismantle its nuclear program. Strike stop. This is Trump's stated goal. Most analysts consider it unlikely in the short term. Revolutionary governments, especially ones that just buried their supreme leader, rarely surrender to the force that killed him. CFR experts warned on day one that Iran may find a need to escalate further, making the cost greater for the United States and its partners. The key variable, they noted, is whether Hezbollah joins the conflict. If it does, the region enters full-scale war. Iran's missile launch rate has already declined. Analysts point to depletion of missile and launcher stores, combined with a strategy of rationing for a longer war. This suggests Iran is preparing not for a quick, decisive strike, but for a long, sustained fight. Pope Leo has publicly appealed to all parties to cease violence, warning of the possibility of a tragedy of enormous proportions. Even the Vatican is alarmed. Everything you heard tonight is sourced. Every number is verified. Every quote is on record from Al Jazeera, CNN, Britannica, China's official foreign ministry, 38 North, the U.S. Embassy, Wikipedia, PBS, and the Council on Foreign Relations. Here is what the facts tell us. A supreme leader was assassinated. His son replaced him. 8 American soldiers are dead. Over 1,255 people in Iran have lost their lives, more than 1,245 of them civilians. The world's busiest airport was shut. Oil prices spiked to $120 a barrel. Spain and America are fighting over air bases. 9 protesters were killed outside a U.S. consulate in Karachi. And a 26-year-old soldier from Kentucky named Benjamin Pennington will never come home. China is talking about peace while protecting its oil supply. North Korea is watching and hardening. And the world is waiting to see if the flames stop here or spread further. Stay informed. Verify what you read. And remember, Behind every number in this war, there is a name. Behind every name, there is a family. This has been your fully sourced March 10th, 2026 briefing. Good night,